Shut up and sit down.
Like one of them freemium type deals or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
Whatever that business model is called.
Yep.
All right, well, we're supposed to be talking about interviews, right?
Yeah, what are we talking about today? What did we say?
Interviews, right?
Oh yeah, interviews. This one's for Robin. This one's for Robin because we wanted to talk about the shitty interview process.
Yep.
Yeah, and how corporations basically try to get you to say you're a crappy person.
Yep, for sure. All right, you want me to start? Because I got some stuff I just pulled up on it, actually.
Yeah, let's go. Do it.
All right, so this is like, let me see what year this is from. Okay, this is based on like March 2016 research, so it's slightly old, but like from Glassdoor, they got like the 10 most common interview questions within like essentially white collar job interviews. So, okay.
Are we going to discuss why these are shitty questions? Because I think that's important.
Yeah, we're going to start there.
Okay.
So these are the 10. I'll just go through them quickly. So it's like, what are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Both pretty basic. Why are you interested in working for this company? Where do you see yourself in 5 to 10 years? Why do you want to leave your current company? Can you explain this gap in employment? What can you offer that someone else cannot? What are 3 things your former manager would like you to improve upon? Are you willing to relocate? Are you willing to travel? All right. So just based on something you said a second ago, there's like definitely 2 to 3 questions in there that are designed to make you come across like a shitty person.
Yeah.
So what are 2 to 3 things a previous manager wants you to improve upon? I would say like a lot of fucking type A males are going to say like, oh, I'm too much of a perfectionist or whatever.
I know, like, stop saying that crap.
Yeah. And then I feel like, okay, I never understood the gap in employment deal because like Steve Jobs, who like everybody in business seems to worship, even though he was an asshole, it's like he like went to China and like studied calligraphy for a bunch of years in his 20s. And I doubt any recruiter would like be looking at Steve Jobs' resume and turn it down. So that feels like a trap question. And then my final thought on these first 10 are like, where do you see yourself in 5 years is an inherently stupid question because A, nobody knows, and B, the average North American job tenure right now is 3.6 years. So like in 5 years, they're not even going to work for you. Who cares where they see themselves in 5 years? And final thing on that, I was at a wedding once and I had this conversation about interviews because some kid was unemployed and going on all these interviews. And I remember he said, and I think this is true, if somebody asks you in an interview, where do you see yourself in 5 years? The actual response that should be considered the right answer is, I see myself having your job. But like, if you said that to a manager, they would go nuts and instantly screen you out of the process because it would threaten them.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah.
So like, if those are the most common interview questions, according to like a pretty large jobs and careers site, that seems like that's a bad place to start from, you know, like right there.
So I saw some interview questions on the New York Times the other day. Sorry, we've got a mosquito and gnat problem in sunny South Florida right now.
I'm sure you do.
It's gross.
Okay, I'll say this too. So I saw this on Forbes, which I usually don't read, but I saw this on Forbes about 6 months ago. Some quote unquote thought leader guy. This was actually a good idea in my opinion. Then I'll tell you why I think it might fail. But he says if you're a candidate and you get to a final interview, you should have an action plan. So not like for the interview, but what you do is you bring 100-day action plan to the interview. So it's like, what are you going to achieve in your first 100 days? How are you going to learn about that business? How are you going to set goals and achieve them for yourself? So I kind of think this is cool, but I think the problem is it ties to the first episode we did, that if you have some mediocre male manager in there, they would instantly be threatened by someone coming to an interview with that. You know? So I feel like it's a cool idea. And if you had a well-adjusted hiring manager, they would be like, cool, like you're already thinking about your first 100 days. But I don't think that would work as much of the time as we think.
Right. No, that's true.
Yeah.
Okay, so I totally lied about what I was going on. Let's go riff on these crappy questions. The thing I saw the other day was the only 3 interview questions that matter, and they're from Business Insider, and they're actually really good, but we'll touch on those.
Okay. So, all right. So then I saw something else. Let me open this. This is like probably about a year old at this point. So it's like, I think it was from Harvard Business Review or whatever.
Yeah.
So, okay. So here's the exact poll quote. It says, once upon a time, what do you think is your biggest weakness was the go-to gotcha interview question for MBAs and managers. Now we should be asking, how do you measure how you're improving your biggest weakness? So that's not bad, because I feel like a lot of companies are trying to prove that they're data-driven. So if you want to be data-driven, you should be getting people in the door that know how to like look at problems and figure out what to measure to see if the problem is improving.
Yeah.
So like, if you went in there and someone was like, what's your biggest problem? And you're like, I'm fat. And they're like, well, what are you doing to improve that? You know? So but it's like, I just don't think you can be quote unquote data driven unless you're actually asking people questions about like, how do you use data in your life, you know?
Okay, yeah, because the whole entire, if someone asks me that question and the answer is I'm fat, the next possible question is, yeah, how are you going to fix that?
Right.
What are you going to do to make that better?
Instead of like, what's your biggest weakness, which I feel like everybody just says something positive anyway, like, yeah, oh, I work too hard. Yeah, I answer emails too late or whatever.
I'm dedicated. I stay late. I'm not sick.
Dedicated. I don't have a life because I'm married to my job. So I just feel like, okay, what if it was like, okay, 1, tell us a problem you've seen about yourself. 2, tell us how you decided to fix it. 3, tell us what you actually measured so that you knew what you were fixing. And then 4, just give me like a broader context around what you did. I feel like that's actually a question whereby like, oh, you're going to figure out how this person thinks, you know, as opposed to like some bullshit like, where do you see yourself in 5 years, you know?
Yeah, which honestly, like you said, like nobody's even going to be around in 5 years except that guy who's happy to be stuck, who's happy to go back to mediocrity and be stuck in the middle management position for the rest of his freaking life because he's got 2.5 kids and a white picket fence he's got to support.
Yep. Yeah.
And he's just hanging out with the status quo. He doesn't he doesn't have any ambition. His life's basically been over since high school.
Yeah. I would say this too. This is kind of like a wrinkle on it. Okay. Whenever I was applying for full-time jobs, you know the period at the end of the interview where they're always like, do you have questions for us or whatever? Yeah. I got so fed up with that period when you're in like an elongated job search process that the only question I ever asked on my end was like, just tell me what the next step is, or can you tell me what the next step is? Okay, so there's all these articles on like Forbes and Fast Company about like what you're supposed to ask the interviewer or the hiring manager. Right. And it's all bullshit like, what's the culture like? But, like, what do you think they're going to say to that? Like, even if it's a terrible culture, they want you to fill that role because they view it as a cost or whatever. They're obviously going to say it's the greatest culture ever. So it's like, that's the other part that I don't know how to be helpful on, because I just got so fed up with it that all I would ever ask is like, well, what's the next step in the process? And I'm sure that probably screened me out of jobs because some recruiter or hiring manager was like, oh, he doesn't take the initiative to like research or ask bigger questions. But I don't even know like what you would ask there, because anything you ask about what it's really like to work there, they're not going to tell you the truth.
No,
You're never
it's
going
true.
to know it until you start working there, you know?
I actually got kicked out of a job pool for things like that because I didn't ask questions.
Yeah.
Because they're like, well, ask us about things you don't know about. Well, I don't know what I don't know. Like, I'm not going to know until I get in there. Can I ask questions after I start?
Yeah. Like, can I ask questions at 90 days?
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, too. Like, I've done a bunch of freelance stuff around this, and I feel like most companies still don't get it. It's like, your, like, supposed talent management strategy, it doesn't end when somebody signs an offer letter. Like, their
Right.
first 90 days of being an employee for you are way more important than the interview process, because now they're actually costing you money in the form of like salary and benefits.
Yeah.
And like so many people that are like talent management VPs or whatever, they think it ends at the offer letter because that's probably where their metrics end. But it's like, no, like I've seen shit where like 35% of Americans look for a new job in the first 4 months of having a job. And it's like, that's because we don't think about the first 90 days of employment, which is 3 months. So it's like, that's the other thing. All this stuff about questions when they're like, you know, ask me what you don't know, or like blah, blah, blah. Like, I would much rather have that discussion when I've been there 60 days when I'm like, oh, I didn't know all this crap, you know? Why is stuff like this? And then the other thing I was going to say that's like tangential to this, I just thought of it from another thing I was doing. It's like, you have all these companies now saying that they're tech companies because it's 2018 and they're like, oh, we compete on tech, even though they really just sell widgets or whatever. But like, if you think you're a tech company and you have like legit like software deliverables or stuff, that should be part of the interview process, where like somebody should code something or do a project, or like give them like a low-level project within your department and be like, hey, do this the best of your ability. Like, that to me seems more logical than a bunch of generic questions, you know?
Yeah. It should. I agree with you. Actually, I think it should literally be a part of any interview process, for the most part, where, especially if it's a skilled job, like, and that even includes, you know, upper level administrators and that sort of thing, where you know, they're tasked with running an entire office. That those are skills that, like, if I went into a job interview, I expect people to ask me about that, not where do you see yourself in 5 years.
Right.
About what would you do if, you know, this boss said blah 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 and you had to figure out a new filing system, and like, that's a skill.
Right. Yeah.
And since a lot of my background is in creating efficiency processes for businesses, that should be a question they ask me. Like, that says that on my resume, that I'm skilled in efficiency processes. That should be something they question me about. What does that mean? If they don't understand, what exactly does that mean? What does that entail? And if they do know what it means, how would I do something? Give me a scenario. Not this, if a customer, you know, had a meltdown in the store, how would you handle it? I don't know.
Right.
Or if there was an emergency, I don't see things in terms of emergencies. I see things in terms of problems that need to be solved. So I don't react to them like typical humans going to, and that always gets a bad response. Like, if we had a problem with a customer, how would you, you know, give me a scenario where you had a problem customer and how you fixed it. I don't see people as problems. I don't see people like in a way that like that. So it's not.
But that probably puts you on the fringe or the margin of like how most of these people construe jobs, is the thing.
Right. And they seem to think that because you have an upset customer, it's a panic situation rather than someone just needs to be heard, and it probably has nothing to do with what is happening in the current moment anyway. So I don't know. I don't get it. I don't get the hiring process and the stupid questions.
Right. Because it's not tied to like the actual solving of problems. It's tied to like easily regurgitatable answers, you know?
Right.
Okay, here's another one that I think is important / interesting. Is like, I have a friend that runs a real estate development group, and he was interviewing for like an admin type role,
Mm-hmm.
and he had this kid in, and there was like a pitcher of water on the table, and in the interview, the kid poured himself water, but like over poured the top of the glass, and so the dude doing the interview, my friend, is like, "Oh, are you nervous?" And the kid goes, "No, I always give 110%." So, like, this is like what I think is funny though, is like a lot of companies claim they want like real human beings because, you know, these people are going to go on teams and interact with other people.
Right.
But then, okay, my friend laughed and that kid got the job ultimately. But I could think of so many interviews I've been in where if I did that or tried to be funny at all, they would be like, nope, like instant out. So that's another thing I think is interesting, is like we claim that we want people with like personality that'll add to our teams and be like good fits, like culture fits, but like you're never like really supposed to actually show personality in a job interview.
Right. No, that's totally true. And I've actually, I've been let go from places because I've been told immediately in the interview that they didn't want me because I said I had some, I guess it could be construed as a wisecrack, but it's like I'm sitting in front of the Inquisition where there's 90 people at the tables, and someone asks a dumbass question and I answer it, you know, and then thinking I'm feeding into what could be a fun culture, and as it turns out,
no, it completely screens you off for the job.
Yeah.
But it's like, that's what, it's also like, okay, I guess I would say kind of like some of the bigger points here then are, I almost feel like even if it's not the person that's going to manage the role, you should only have people interviewing who like actually get human beings, you know, like even if they're not going to manage that person, like let them do the interviews and report back to the actual manager on like, these people would be the best. Because it's like when you have these guys with like no personality, complete like middle of the road, whatever, like how are you ever going to get people? Because A, they're going to rely on these generic questions that we've talked about, and B, like if the person tries to show any personality, they're not going to like that. They're just going to want like some automaton, you know?
So, no, that's totally true.
So I feel like you need to identify 5 to 10 people in your company that should actually do interviews and like let them do the majority of the interviews.
So here's the biggest thing is that, I mean, for the most part, I don't think, and maybe this is not true, it's been a while since I've been a part of the working class, as it were. I've kind of been on my own for a while. The HR involvement in the hiring process is kind of, HR doesn't care about the people you're hiring. They aren't looking out for the employees. They're looking out for the top of the company.
For sure. And that's like a huge thing that nobody really talks about, that we should probably make another like 30-minute episode about, because it's like, I think that's the thing where like, honestly, let's say you start like a job, like cubicle type work at 22, or like whenever you get out of college, like 25, whatever, like, I don't think you really understand work until you come to realize what you just said. Like, because they feed you so much shit when you're young about like, oh, HR is here to protect you. Once you realize they couldn't care less about you and they're really there to protect the highest level, is like, then you're like, oh, okay, I get what this whole system's about.
And the testament to any of this is, and in recent years this has become a bigger deal than it ever was, but the testament to that is the whistleblowers.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And also, I just thought of this too, and I'll even like call out this company because I feel like we probably won't get in trouble for it, or hopefully we don't.
As long as it's not, as long as it's true, it's not slanderous or libel. So.
Okay, so I was like, I would say this is probably spring of 2014. It was this company in Tampa called TriBridge, which is like a Microsoft reseller partner or some shit. And like, I would say I was not located in Tampa at the time. And in hindsight, like I probably wouldn't have wanted to move to Tampa, but I would say I had either 5 or 7 phone interviews with them. I think it was 7. And each one was with a different person. So it's like 2 HR, like 3 managers that are associated with this role. And this was like some probably shit, like $65,000 marketing job, right? So it was like 2 HR, 3 like middle managers, like 1 low level executive, and somebody else. I would say all 7 people asked me essentially the same 4 to 5 questions. So there was no new information at any level. And then I finished the 7th interview with this company, and I literally get a 2-line email like, nope, you didn't get it. And like each one of those was like 30 minutes. So 30 times 7 is like 210. So like 3.5 hours of my life completely wasted on the same questions.
And here's the other thing. They wasted their time too. Like that was just a complete freaking waste of time.
Right.
Send me a questionnaire that I can answer.
Yeah. The 6th and 7th interviews were with guys who probably made like 200,000 or whatever, 150, 200,000. So like, if you even do their hourly, they wasted like a bunch of money on those 2, just like right there. Yeah. So it's like, there had to be like a better way where like that could have gone from HR to the actual hiring manager to his or her boss, 3 interviews, then scream me out or whatever. Or like just scream me out at the first one. That to me is a sign that you have no idea what's going on in your process.
Right, especially if you're being asked the same questions more than once. Like if I don't answer it the right way the first time, I'm probably not going to answer it the right way the second time.
Right, exactly. And like, I don't know, it almost made me feel like, shouldn't I have had a file there where like, as it was advancing by level, they were sharing notes about what they asked me and what I said? Because it's literally the exact same questions each round.
Right, did nobody check this?
This is valuable. How is this like strategic for them, you know?
Right.
So that's like that was another horror story. And then another one I just thought of, which isn't really about like interview questions so much as like kind of this role of HR deal and preparation. I was living in Minneapolis, and I applied to a job in Austin, Texas, and it sounded like a pretty cool job. And I got through like the initial like LinkedIn online screen stuff. Mm-hmm. And this hiring manager calls me up, and they were like, I had told the HR lady like, oh, like I'm not based there, but I would move. I don't even need that much relocation or whatever. If you give some, that's cool. So like I get on the phone with this hiring manager, and he's like, oh, so you're based in Austin? And I was like, no, I'm based in Minneapolis, but I'd move for it, you know? And he's like, oh, we only want people currently based in Austin, so I'll just end this now. And I was like, what? Like, how did that process evolve? Like, who just didn't communicate with the other person? Like, and the funniest shit is I had like LinkedIn Premium at that point. I deactivated it since then. But like, I could see that he had just been looking at my LinkedIn profile, which clearly states where you live presently. Like, I just don't understand, like, that's not as much about interview questions, but like, how is that possible that like that process gets so screwed up? Like, that's such a simple handoff of information. Like, just each side needs to do their job better, you know? Which is like, to me, I feel like that ball got dropped in HR probably, because that's like the usual case study on that type of deal.
Right.
I just don't know like how something so simple gets so screwed up. And then like, even if he had decided to continue that interview, the whole thing would have been completely biased, because he would have been like, this dude's not local. I'm never going to offer it to him. So I just feel like it's such a fucking flawed system, you know?
And the screening process is ridiculous. So these questions from Business Insider, okay, the first one, it's ridiculous, but it's what we've been talking about. It says, and this is stupid because it's answered by your frickin' resume and whether you make it through the first round anyway. But the first question is, have you got the skills, expertise, and experience to perform the job?
Right.
I mean, isn't that what the initial screening's for?
Shouldn't that be what the screening's for? Or like, shouldn't they have some context of whether you could possibly do this job? That would be nice, you know?
Right. Yeah. Are you enthusiastic and interested in the job and the company? To some degree, that makes sense, but
Yeah. But it's like, what are you gonna say? Like, would
you're gonna say
anybody be
no?
like, no, I'm just trying to get a paycheck out of this. That's it.
I mean,
Like,
I would say something like that. Like
right,
I'm honest about, I'm just here for a job. I'll do whatever you want because I want a job.
right,
I've
right.
been known to do that, but
And like, honestly, I feel like that's what probably 70% of managers in conventional like white collar jobs want to hear, you know? But then
I
like
would
for
hire
me,
somebody based on the truth. If they
yeah,
flat told me that, I would be like, you've got the job, because here's the other thing. If I'm overqualified for this job and I'm here telling you I just want a job, I'm probably going to show up every single day and do this job better than anybody else you're ever going to hire. And
right,
that's a whole
for
nother
sure,
thing people aren't taking into account.
for sure. Yeah. What's the third question on that article?
Will you fit into our team culture and company?
Again, how would you possibly know the answer to that question before you started working there?
Right.
It's like impossible, you know?
Right.
Like unless one of your friends referred you to that role and you have some idea how he or she feels about work, you would have no idea how to answer that question.
Right.
You know?
Yep.
Like I saw a thing on another article like yesterday that kind of like is the same deal as that. There's like some big health insurance company where one of their main survey questions every year is um, like how effective a job is the C-suite doing at like building culture? Like who has access to the C-suite in like $1 billion company? I don't know what they're doing. Like it's like, okay, yeah, I guess if we're successful and everyone's getting paid or whatever, like I guess they're doing a good job. But like you can't ask a question that there's no way an average person could answer. Like that question just leads itself to such bullshit. Like I just feel like you're gonna be like, oh, I'm a consummate team player or whatever. It's like, well, maybe you are, but like you don't know what the culture is like until you get into the place. Like most places are very like sales driven, target driven cultures, you know, like so if you're real comfortable with that, your answer could generically be yes, but like not everybody is, you know?
Right. And none of this makes any sense to me. And it's, probably beneficial that I've been a freelancer for like, close to 20 years.
Sure. I mean, I think I'm coming up on 3 in October. And it's like, it's definitely been a beneficial 3 years of my own existence, you know?
I mean,
It's
yeah.
like nearly impossible to put up with this cycle on a recurring basis. I had a friend that was unemployed for 36 months, and he went on probably, I want to say, north of like 700 first interviews, screen interviews,
Oh,
and
yeah.
like he would text me all the time. 'Cause for a lot of that, he was based in LA. Now he lives in Houston because he finally got a job. Like he would text me all the time and be like, "This process is inhumane." So it's like if you're describing the way we get people into companies the same way that people describe like slaughterhouses, that's like a pretty bad thing, you know? Yes, I just feel like companies need to think more strategically about what they actually want and then map questions to that. And I also feel like you usually come into jobs and do a bunch of work with the team, and that's true even as a freelancer. You don't like do that much with the boss of the team unless you're about to get thrown under the bus for something usually. So like you should almost like get it down to 3 candidates and then like have them each work on a small project with the team they're going to be put on, and then the team can tell the boss like, well, this person was the most efficient at solving shit. Like that seems much better than like what are your biggest weaknesses?
Well, and let's talk about how much less that would cost in the long run, because
Sure.
of 90-day turnover periods.
Yeah.
You had 3 or 4 people come in and work with the team for a day or 2.
Right.
So you could see how they got along with the culture. You could see if they have the skills to do the job. You can see their enthusiasm for showing up. They'd make a few bucks.
Yep.
Right? If you paid, if it would cost you maybe a couple of grand to do that, depending on the positions.
Yep.
But that's so much cheaper that it costs so many thousands of dollars to onboard one person.
Yeah. Oh man, I was working this contract once as a freelancer, and their sales and marketing team had like churn every 3 weeks. So their recruiting side was like going into overdrive. So the first thing I would say about a job like that, if you're full-time in it, is like somebody there needs to be looking at turnover relative to manager. Because it's like clearly there's a high up sales dude and a high up marketing dude or females who are driving these people away in droves.
Right.
But it's like, think about how much money they're burning just trying to like get these people, teach them the stuff quickly, make them start producing. And it's like, if you literally just had people come in for a day, work on stuff, either they would see that the culture is toxic and be like, I don't want this job, or you could be like, man, this person actually fits with what we're doing here. But like you said, in the long run, it's significantly cheaper, you know? And
well, how many jobs have you walked into where you're like, yeah, I totally want this job. I totally want to be there. And then you get into it and you're like, I'm freaking stuck now.
Yep.
I'm stuck. I can't walk away.
Man, my last like official full-time job, again, the whole hiring process was everything we were talking about. And it's like, it was done long distance too. So I finally came down in like, I guess that was June 2014. I came down and like did a final like in-person deal and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it was like, man, culturally, I thought it seemed okay. Like you could tell throughout the process that there were cracks in that foundation.
Right.
But it was like, I would say day 3 of that job, I was like, oh, there's a bunch of people based in Seattle that do exactly what I was hired to do. So this job is completely redundant. And it was like I just wish from a candidate side, there was a better way to suss that stuff out in the interview. But it's like, when you're going through the process, like we were saying at the beginning, it almost feels like when you try to be yourself or be truthful, like everyone's like, well, you're gone. So I was trying to play that pretty conservatively because I had just finished this grad program and I wanted a job because I knew I was about to be like $30,000 in debt. But, it was like, I just felt like it was day 3 when I realized like, oh, this job is redundant. And like, if they ever hit like a revenue rough patch, I'll be gone, which is what eventually happened. And it's like, just, yeah, on the candidate side, I wish there was an easier way to like suss that out where you could ask real questions of people and they wouldn't feel threatened by it. I just don't know if psychologically we could ever get to that, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
We got 5 minutes on this one, I think is it.
Okay. So let's determine what we like. I can probably do another one tomorrow or definitely Friday. So let's determine what we want to do, if you've gotten any requests or whatever. And then we'll set that one up in this end period. If you don't edit it out, it can be like a mini teaser for that deal.
I'll just make a teaser. I don't know. I'll just leave it there.
So like I guess we could do kind of the whole deal with like who HR is really protecting, because we kind of touched on that within that one.
Yeah, we might as well segue into that. I mean,
yeah, that one, and then the other one that like a lot of my friends hit me with recently, and like even some of the ones that clicked on this first one we did, is like the paradox of like nowadays. Okay, maybe like 20, 30 years ago, if you were good at your job, you basically got like transitioned into management or some shit where you like didn't have to do as much. Right. Now, if you're good at your job, you just get more and more work heaped on you and like don't really get any promotions.
Right.
So, like, something around that culture too. Yeah. Or we could go back to like, oh, this is actually kind of interesting that I saw on LinkedIn today. Like one of the rare things on LinkedIn that has value is like 92%. This is like University of Washington research. 92% of the reasons that relationships end are the same as why people leave jobs. So obviously.
Oh, yeah. We need to go over that one.
I feel like you and I could do a good job on that because we probably both have a bunch of stuff we could put up on there. Yes. So yeah, maybe we'll do that next. Is like how everybody wants to draw this thick line between like work and personal and all that shit, but it's like there's a 92% overlap in why we end relationships and why we want to lose jobs. So maybe the line shouldn't be that thick, you know?
And there's one more thing that's really been that's kind of just gotten my goat for a lot of years, is these people wanting post-secondary education like mad, but they don't want to pay anything more than minimum wage for the job.
Oh God, that's good stuff too.
Or the people that, because my post-secondary education is 164 credits with never graduating.
Right. Have you ever
and I have
heard
all of this experience, and they still want me to do an $8 an hour admin job when I've got 25 years of experience.
Have you ever heard my? I'll leave you with this anecdote, but like I saw a job maybe 6 months ago, and it had 17, I'm not even kidding you, 17 bullet pointed skills in the job description. They wanted like master's type level, like beyond undergrad, beyond GED, and they actually put the salary in the description. It was 40. And I was like, man, who in their right mind wrote this job description and thinks that someone with 17 skills, 10 years of experience, and a fucking master's degree is going to take a $40,000 base job? But there's somebody somewhere that thought that was perfectly fine to post online.
That master's degree cost them $40,000 a year to fucking get.
Right there. I was like, oh God, that's almost like rampant ego that someone would even let that get posted online, you know?
I don't even, we're gonna have a lot of stuff to talk about. This is,
yeah, it'll be good. All right, I'll hit you up after this and we'll figure out when we do the next one. But this was good stuff.
It was, for sure.
Sweet. All right.
See ya.
See ya.